Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It's set up Sunday. Let's take a look at some charts. And for any regular viewer of this channel, it's going to be not too much of a surprise based on what we've been looking at. What people don't realize is you really only need a couple good trades a year that are properly sized. But that doesn't mean you can just show up and have the conviction. You know, it kind of takes sitting through some of this stuff for weeks or months to really have the conviction and the understanding to say, yeah, this is the appropriate size for this situation, right? It takes multiple cycles for some people. Some people are freaking out. They're either under allocated or they're chasing or they feel like they're late. I'll get to that towards the middle of this, but you just have to know the asset. You have to know that when we trend, we tend to trend very hard for a long time, especially post-halving, especially in election years. And yes, we do have 20 to 30% drawdowns. That's part of the game. So you can either wait for said drawdown, which tends to happen pretty frequently, or you could just DCA, or you could just lump sum. For most people, the hardest part about this whole thing is just doing nothing. It's just buying and doing nothing until a much more obvious place. You know, a great example of that is look at alts. Everybody's like, oh, it's alt season for months. And meanwhile, charts don't say that at all. And what did it take? It took one of the greatest like weekend rallies we've seen ever on alts. And now it's pretty obvious to everybody that, yeah, alts are going to do pretty well, right? So it's probably going to be pretty obvious to everybody towards the top as well. I wouldn't overthink it. The worst thing I'd want to be is underallocated, because if you remember 2020 was basically no dips the entire time. Sailor, by the way, still hasn't bought yet, allegedly. Now, he may come out this week and say he bought XYZ number of BTC, but we haven't seen that from him yet. So that's one big buyer. We've got somebody in the Middle East buying, apparently. We've got people buying for the strategic Bitcoin reserve because they heard about it on the news, whether that happens or not. So there's all sorts of buyers. Why are we going up? Because we've ranged for 6 months. So anyway, this is drawdowns. And you can't be excited about the upside volatility and not understand that that comes with downside volatility. It just is what it is, right? So there's going to be plenty of people who get completely chopped up. They just don't understand. Part of the reason we do what we do here on this very channel to establish the plan, to look at stuff like this, performance since cycle low. We are actually underperforming previous 2 cycles since the cycle low. Still. Now we're pretty close. We're in the wheelhouse, right? We're about there. We're certainly not as accelerated as we were last cycle. And I'd much prefer us to look like the 2016 cycle. That was great. You know, it just kept going and going and going. We're about half done if we're the 2016 cycle. We're about 100 days from realistically being done if this is the 2020 cycle where we had SBF selling off everybody's coins. So if I had to guess, it's going to be closer to the 2016 cycle than it is the 2020 cycle. So it gives us plenty of time. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of upside targets. I don't see a reason to not keep buying, personally. If your target's like me and it's in the 300s potentially, like the ultimate stretch target, then that's still a pretty good multiple from here, just on BTC. Never mind everything else. We can talk about Sol. Okay, Sol 1000, that's a 5x. ETH 10,000. Okay, that's a 3x-ish. Anything else is going to be a greater multiple, greater risk, greater volatility, greater drawdown, etc. So you play it accordingly, right? You don't have to really overthink this. If this is truly going to be a post-election day rally, I mean, we have plenty of time. We're actually overperforming the previous 2 cycles relative to election days, but we really haven't gone anywhere. You know, we really haven't, relative to what we've seen. We really haven't gone anywhere. And then just doing a quick round the horn that I'll do weekly for people that are freaked out. You know, is this it? This is the top. You know, every $1,000 they're freaking out. Here's the 200-week moving average. It's right there. These colors are the relative percent away from the 200-week moving average. We are not overheated. We're fine. We can zoom way out. We can look at everything cycle-wise, et cetera, et cetera. We're fine. You know, it takes time. We consolidated for 7 months. I would give it at least 3 to make a decision on whether or not we're going to go to 300 or not. By cycle top, not crossed yet. Not much else to say on that one. Rainbow chart still towards the bottom. But it just is what it is. It's binary. Are we up here? Are we in the danger zone, or are we relatively calm, cool, collect mode? Looks good to me. Next chart, right? 2-year moving average multiplier. Upside here is at 210. That's going to keep moving up. with price. Again, no issues. What are we worried about? So what's the worst case, right? It's not necessarily how bullish we are. Everybody knows we're bullish. It's like, what's your worst case scenario? 60, 50, 40? I don't think we're going to 40. Worst case scenario is probably the 200-week moving average, which is down here at 41. Okay. That's probably worst case. That was COVID. That was 2018. That was post 2022 blow up. So to me, that says get long, stay long, be long, hold on, nothing to worry about. Then we can look at all this other stuff that says it's still early. This is MVRV. It's at 2. Up here is danger zone. Down here is buy with both hands, sell all organs. Looks fine. Not overheated at all. I'm not concerned about ETFs as far as on-chain activity. That's going to come out of the ETFs and will be sold on-chain eventually or on an exchange. And it should make its way into this data, but I'm not too concerned about how that may look eventually. This is the miners. Are they fat and happy? If they're fat and happy, it's probably the end of the cycle. Miners are very much not fat and happy here. Puel multiple down here. So there's not a ton of unrealized profits sitting in the ecosystem. There's not a ton of people waiting to take profits in the ecosystem. We'll look at funding in a minute. OI, I couldn't care. I couldn't give a single sat about OI ever, personally. Really the same thing with volume. Just because we've had so many exchanges, so many leveraged exchanges, it's very hard to know what normal is from cycle to cycle. We have the ETFs now. What's normal now? I don't know. We'll find out in a year or two when we see what normal looks like. When we get the options, open interest is going to look different again. And then we're going to have people screaming, oh man, OI is it's just too much. Look at all this leverage in the ecosystem. Well, we got a ton of people on the basis trade who are short the future, long the ETF. That's going to juice OI. Flows, by the way, hit an all-time high on a daily net inflow basis. I want to say I expect this week, these flows to actually be potentially higher than last week because we have people waking up, right? The election just happened. Decision-making is not instant for big institutions. And as price goes up, the FOMO starts to kick in. So yeah, I expect just continuous money into the ETFs. That means OI higher, volume higher, everything higher. On that front, for ETH, the ETH basis is at least 15%, if not higher. The issue with the basis trade on ETH is I don't know if the liquidity is enough. You know, when we're talking about a basis trade arbitrage individual like Millennium, they're coming in with 1 billion, 2 billion. I don't know if you have the liquidity for that on the futures side of ETH or the ETF side, to be frank. I mean, it could just be a little too early. So the ETH basis may continue to blow out on the legacy side. On the crypto native side, Athena is probably going to help keep that tamped down. That's an on-chain basis ARB. But flows for ETH so far have been basically zero, which, okay, fine. Not getting any help from TradFi. Very hard to sell a product like ETH relative to BTC. But as the price starts to pick up, you'd expect something more here, probably, in the flows than we've seen. But I don't see any issues here. There's no like landmines we're watching. Funding. What is funding? Oh man, funding. It's up. Guess what? We're at an all-time high. Funding should be up. That's what you expect to see. People are taking speculative bets. The price goes higher. Is funding screaming like it was last time we were up here? No, but it's definitely rising. Okay, that's something to pay attention to. Now, is it like end of cycle stuff like it was in 2021? No. So we're seeing speculative activity pick up. We're not seeing a crazy amount of speculative activity. This is ETH. Again, it's picking up. It's not crazy. Okay, next chart, right? There's not really much else to say here. Things are just getting started. We just broke out. Sol isn't even at an all-time high yet. Here's the funding on Sol. It looks fine. Okay, yeah, it's rising. It should be. Good. That's what you want. I'm sure some people are still short on Sol, short on ETH. Here's funding a bunch of other alts. Of course, Mudang is the hottest right now, along with GOAT. And if we look at what happened in March, the highest beta, the highest risk stuff tends to get overheated first, and then everything else sort of catches up, and then everything sort of corrects, brings funding with it. And this can just keep happening over and over and over, so long as we have spot buyers coming in or stablecoin coming in, which we'll take a look at. But this looks fine. Does this look like March to you? It doesn't to me. I mean, yeah, it's getting warmer, sure, but that's fine. If we're asking the question, Is this it? Is it over? Based on funding, based on all the rest of this stuff, it looks fine. This is seasonality. The reason people look at this stuff, whether it's self-fulfilling or not, is because when it works really well. It's like TA. When it works really, really well. And knowing this versus not knowing this does give you a heads up on what to expect for the quarter. And so far, so good for Q4. We look great. Plenty of room here, right? Here was 2020. Here was 2016. Fine. We look good. Plenty of room. No issues there. Monthly. Plenty of people talking about in September, when September was green. The October 1st, people were talking about this. They were saying, hey, the only other times we've seen September go green, we've seen the next 3 months green. So yeah, that's worth that's worth paying attention to, right? Now we're in November and yeah, we're pretty green. What do we expect in December? I'd expect it to be green. I'd expect the rest of November to be green. That's just what we've seen. That's the expectation. I don't know if it's going to be reality, but that's what we've seen. ETH, more of a mixed bag, definitely does better in the first half of the year. So what I'd love to see from a trading perspective is ETH start to wake up like it is now. And then we get this mega TradFi rotation, ETF wise or whatever. Maybe we get ETH options on the ETFs in 2025 as well. And maybe that marks some sort of top or interim top. But ETH has had a great November so far. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to US territory customers by Paired Ventures Inc., PBI, DBA, and Kraken. I've been using Kraken for many, many years, probably since the very beginning. I've used it a lot over the past week when things started to wake up. I was noticing yesterday that the ETH USD volume was actually higher than BTC. Now that isn't the case today as we're at 81.2 as I'm recording this video. It's another all-time high. For months and months and months, ETH was pretty far down the volume list, kind of like it is now, and was just kind of dead. It was just flat. Nobody cared about it. It was flat year to date, which was a pretty ugly sight to see, but it's starting to wake up. And if you want to make that Sol ETH fight, if you want to figure out what the best micromanaged min-maxed allocation is, maybe you're watching Sol ETH. I think you're definitely watching Sol BTC. This is ETH BTC. This thing, trend-wise, is still an absolute dumpster fire. It's going to take a very heavy lift from ETH to be bullish on trend on a high time frame. That doesn't mean it can't have a crazy bounce to 046. Possible, right? That's a great trade. Great trade. But if BTC is pushing like it's pushing, it's just going to be hard for ETH to just keep up. Now it can maintain sideways. Like I said, it can go to 046. But trend-wise, I would not expect ETH to outperform just yet because, again, ETH does best in the first half of the year. Why? That's probably because of the rotation trade. We can look at Sol BTC as well. And Sol BTC was basically flat since March. I guess since December, it's been flat. Now, what does this look like to me? It looks like two things, an ascending triangle, and it looks like a cup and handle. And this measure is significantly higher. Now, am I allocated for a Sol, Nirvana, Oblivion, Banana Zone, 1000X? I am not allocated for that. But yes, I expect Sol to do very well. TA for this looks very bullish. And it certainly looks bullish against ETH. I know a lot of people were worried about the Sol ETH rising wedge or something to that effect. I mean, this just looks like dominance to me, Bitcoin dominance. It just winning against ETH. It just is. So back to BTC, if we look at another just checklist item, where are we on the power law? Why does this work? More and more people are looking at it, certainly. This was created or discovered well back here, 2016 or earlier, and it's held price very well. We're not even past the midpoint of the power law. My target, 333, end of cycle, might be low. The power law says, maybe 500. I wouldn't get too crazy about it. We'll see it when we get there, right? But again, this is early. If you think your target is in 100, 200, 300, what are you worried about here? Enjoy the ride. Have a good time. Here's another reason to think we're going higher. Depending on if you're in log or not, this is going to look different. I am in log, but as many people have pointed out, this is a cup and handle. The cup and handles are bullish continuation. And this is a multi-year cup and handle. The handle is also very high, very tight relative to the resistance level. Might not have felt that living through it, but this helps post-breakout performance. So I have zero doubts in my mind that we're going to reach for something in 150, 175, 250, 300. So I have no concerns holding here until things got to look real bad for me to consider closing anything. And we got to be closing in the daily cloud or the weekly cloud or something. But to me, this looks very early in an eventual move higher. And we just go again around the horn. What are other people saying? What are some other analysts saying outside of crypto? That's really the most important thing. What are legacy people saying about this price action, this setup? This is Katie Stockton. She was just on the Compound and Friends. They actually pulled this chart up. It's a cloud chart with, she's calling out a few things here, but mainly just the breakout. She was saying, I'll put this in the description of the video. She was saying, wait till Sunday, wait for the confirmed breakout. So yes, there are still people waiting on the sidelines. 100%. 100%. She's pointing out Stoke and MACD. I'm not too worried about Stoke or RSI. MACD looks good. I'm not sure about these cloud settings. We'll have to have a conversation with Katie, but looks good, right? Looks great. JC Peretz All-Star Charts, his favorite thing to draw is a half circle. Clearly, cup and handle looks good. Bar chart, cup and handle, right? It's not just crypto people seeing this. This is Peter Brandt talking about a complex inverted head and shoulders. Same thing, same idea. His target's well above 200. This is Trend Spider. He does great stuff. Definitely give him a follow. He and I chart very, very similarly. So the point here is it's good to see other people seeing what you're seeing. That way, I'm not the crazy one. This is just technical analysis. This could be self-fulfilling, but what do I care, right? If everybody's seeing the same thing and trading it the same way, that helps my cause. I do not think it's crowded. It helps our cause for higher highs. I posted this as well on Friday or Saturday, whatever it was. And man, the people, they just came out. They said, this can't be, this is a lie. I get it. I posted no proof, but this is true. A friend of mine shared this with me, and I didn't want to dox the advisor or the friend, but yes, it is not a large advisor. And that's not really the point. The point is the advisors are just getting their clients in. So yes, I think we still have some room to go higher. This was a UK pension fund that just entered last week or the week before. Podcast on that. We've got Google Trends just breaking out. I mean, we look like we've done nothing for 7 months and it's just broken out, right? I mean, this is what you'd expect. Everything's sort of zeroed out. So I think it's very early. I think allocations here are fine. I'm not really worried about it. Is this parabolic on the daily? You better believe it is. Absolutely. But yeah, we've also been ranging for 7 months. At some point, is it possible to go back to 71? It's possible. But again, remember 2020 and 2021 where we just went straight up and that was it. You were just locked out. If you were waiting for the dip, you really didn't get one. I don't have Williams fractals on here, but we don't have a Williams fractal until 67. So even the trailing stop losses haven't even started to print yet. Now, this is a different conversation. If you're on extremely high leverage, you're probably watching different stuff. But for anybody on 5x leverage or less from the breakout, let's say 70, even post-election 75, okay? I don't think they're too concerned right now. This was the complex inverted head and shoulders that we talked about over the past couple months. This is approaching probably a pause area from 80 to 88. We'll see what Monday looks like. Monday could just blow through this, as dumb as that sounds, just because we are confirming a lot of breakout criteria for people. People will start to FOMO post-election. Again, people are looking to allocate to how they should be correctly positioned into the new paradigm or whatever. So 88 on the week, I like. 88 on Monday, I don't know. But this will be the measured move of that chart pattern. And this is something else to watch on the pitchfork and, kind of beating a dead horse here on BTC, because if you get BTC right, you will get alts right. Alts are just an amplification of BTC. They're just leverage. They're just BTC leverage. That's it. So what do you want to see out of BTC? You want to see momentum. That's what we have. You want to see all-time highs. That's what we have. You don't want to see divergences. You don't want to see bearish chart patterns. You don't want to see crazy wicks. And so this is the next area where the market has to answer the question, is it time to be absolutely parabolic, or are we going to reconsolidate here around 100K? If we look at the power law, the midpoint of the power law is about where you'd expect price to slow down on the pitchfork. So this is a very sensitive area where we may do what we did in March, where we quickly get to the top of this pitchfork and then we maybe spend some time reconsolidating. Max bear case would be back to the midpoint. But if we break above the power law, then that begins the journey to the ceiling, which is again 300, 400, 500, something that sounds absolutely impossible. Looking at alts here quickly, the stablecoins have started to print. Tether started to print. USDC started to print. That means more money in the ecosystem. That means it's easier for alts to go higher. This is ETH. ETH is above the daily cloud. It is honestly, it's moved too fast for the daily cloud to really understand what's going on here. It's the cloud is still red on the daily. At some point, this will settle in. At some point, you're going to get probably a reconsolidation and a continuation, but it's certainly locked people out on the way up. But ETH looks fine. Sol looks very good. It's hit the IHS target. The next target would be 260, 300, something in there based on the recent consolidation. So that looks fine. DOGE is completely beyond insanity up here. Definitely connected to Trump and Elon and all that stuff. I wouldn't want to add to DOGE up here. That's just me. Now this could go to 50 cents. This could go to $1. This chart looks a bit much. It looks very stretched to me. That's it, right? There are other things you can play in the same sector. I played one such last night. SHIB still looks okay. It's definitely, it's up 50% in a day. Maybe give it a minute to take a breath. But you can either play this by sector or by ecosystem or both. If ETH starts to wake up, ETH ecosystem stuff starts to wake up because it's ETH beta. ETH beta would be Link, Lido, things like that. Sol DeFi is up like 400% overnight or something stupid. So it's a question of, okay, do I really want to long LTC? Well, maybe, layer ones are doing good. Everything is doing well. BTC is pushing all-time highs. It's above the cloud. The cloud gives you its blessing. So charts like this, I don't hate. AVAX is another one. It looks fine. It looks like it did in October last year. Does this run to 90, 120? Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, why not, right? If you're looking for like a catch-up trade or you want to go down even further, let's go to DPIN. Let's go to Filecoin. Here's a breakout on the daily for the first time in a long time on Filecoin. ICP is another one. Daily breakout. Sure, right? These trades could work. Are they going to outperform everything? Probably not. But you also don't really know when, where, and why a sector starts to pop off or an ecosystem starts to pop off or somebody mentions something somewhere and stuff like this starts to do well. But the cloud is saying, yeah, why not? I didn't pull up a TIA chart. TIA is probably lagging a little bit more than ICP, but that's another one that just a lot of people are watching. It doesn't mean those coins have to do well. I mean, look at EOS. People watched EOS for a long time, and I wouldn't expect EOS to necessarily outperform anything here. But there are plenty of options. Link I mentioned looks great. Link, people know what Link does. Link has number go up technology. So when we're looking for momentum and things that have a history of dancing with momentum, Link definitely comes to mind. PYTH is another one. Why not? Sol Oracle. That's what I have in my head, whether that's right or not. Sector ecosystem has the potential to do well. Again, is it going to outperform BTC here? That's the question you have to ask, because otherwise it's a tough ask to just say, hey, some random alt is going to outperform when everybody in the world is going to be thinking about or entering BTC pretty soon here. That's all I got for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.